Hello, lovers of the world. This is Sinta speaking. So, I actually loved quite a few of the K-pop title tracks that came out in 2021. I thought that it was a pretty good year for K-pop, despite the setbacks and the hurdles that were like thrown our way. So, I thought to celebrate the end of that year, I would list off my favorite 20 K-pop title tracks from 2021, just as a way to say goodbye to the year and hopefully we can look forward to more music for 2022. So this list that I made is in no particular order. It's literally just like the top 20 songs that sparked the most joy throughout 2021. So I guess without further ado, let's just list them all off. So the first song I want to talk about is Poppin by ONF. Now I think ONF are basically the camp kings of K-pop, and I love how their songs are so happy and sincere and corny at times, but done in a way that it makes it so impossible not to love them. This catchy, sweet summer anthem was, I thought, a better execution of the style that they had used previously in their earlier comeback, Beautiful Beautiful. I also think that the flute melody in the chorus gives off a really carefree vibe that sticks with you even after the song ends. The second song that I really liked from 2021 is Pirate by Everglow, which I thought was just another camp slay, but like in a completely different way. How else could you possibly describe this blast from the 2010 EDM past with its numerous banger one-liners, not to mention Shihyun's iconic, empowering girl boss moment.
She's got a point, she's an icon, she's a legend, and she is the moment. Now come on now.
The song is so fun and catchy and exciting that even though this came out a bit later in the year, I still couldn't help but put it in this list because of how much of a banger it is. You know, the impending return of 2010 musical trends intimidates me, especially since I was never really a big fan of pop music of that time. But when it's executed in this way, I do kind of feel excited for the future, just to see like how people take those outdated sounds and turn them into something new. So yeah, in that way, I am excited for what the future holds, especially if that future includes Everglow. Speaking of Everglow, their first comeback was also a favorite release from 2021. And I actually went into further detail about this particular song in a different video, which I will link in the above so that you can hear what I originally said about it in that video. So I'll keep what I think about this song in this video short. While Pirate, I feel, is a classically camp song, the word that comes to mind when I listen to first is epic. The theatrical strings and its abrasive EDM influenced style creates a really interesting contrast that provides a very cinematic experience, just as the rising momentum that builds and builds alongside the soaring vocals of Shion and Mia take you to a new dimension. And another song that I loved from 2021 is Don't Fight the Feeling by EXO. Now this kind of took me by surprise because I don't actually like a lot of EXO's songs. None of their previous hits actually caught my attention in the past, so this was a bit of a surprise when I found that I was obsessed with this particular song. I think in the grand scheme of EXO's very large discography, I wouldn't really call this anything important or noteworthy, and it definitely does not hold a candle to any of EXO's previous hits. It is, however, a very basic, summery, fun song, and it sparked a lot of joy for me nonetheless. So when it first came out, I just had it on repeat all the time. Speaking of basic K-pop music that still sparked joy, I also really loved Favorite by NCT 127. I am a huge NCT 127 fan. I listen to quite a bit of their discography, and I would very definitively say that they are one of the very few boy groups that I actually keep up with. And so as a big NCT stan, I would say that this song isn't as memorable or as attention grabbing as their previous songs. Not even the most attention grabbing of this year, because Sticker came out this year and that was a song that everybody was like going crazy over, I guess. But regardless, I still really liked Favorite. It's just a very stereotypical NCT song. It's got that there's that melodic lightness to the chorus, but like a hard edge in the verses. The soaring vocals are classically NCT, as is the cool desperation in the voices that they plead. You'll always be my favorite. The breakdowns are always crisp and on point. So I think it was just like really easy to like a song like this. In the grand scheme of NCT's discography, I really don't think people will particularly remember this as iconic, especially with Sticker came out in the same year, but I still enjoyed this song nonetheless. Speaking of more music from SM Entertainment, Savage by aespa was the song that basically gave me the most life this year. Now, I know I said earlier that I found it difficult to rank my favorite K-pop songs of 2021. I would still say that aespa is like really high up there in terms of like tiers, you know? This is just a song that I could not like get enough of. You could argue that there's a lot going on in the song, and that might be why their fans might not like this song as much as their previous hits, especially when Next Level came out in the same year, and that song took K-pop by storm. But that's why I really like this song. There's a lot of contrasts and juxtapositions in it that you spend a lot of time processing the song as you're listening to it. Like, for example, the beginning of the song has this like juxtaposition of Winter's clear enunciation, but when she speaks with such a sarcasm that is as sharp as icy knives. And that leads into Karina's deep fry rap line backed up with this heavy metallic beat, like two rods hitting each other. And there's also this like contrast of Winter and Ningning going into complete beast mode against like a really strong instrumental, but it never really seems like they're competing with each other for your attention. It all kind of seems to balance out, even though there's so much going on. And even the way that the song ends with such a sassy flourish. What? After such a really heavy like bombardment of sensory auditory experience, like only aespa can make Indifference sound so powerful. It's a gift, it's a talent. Speaking of girl bosses giving us experimental music, I also really loved Poison by Pink Fantasy, and I actually thought it was the most eyebrow-raising K-pop song I've heard all year, because it's not really a K-pop song at all when you think about it. We've officially crossed over to heavy metal and screamo at this point. Poison is definitely a song that would not exist today without Dreamcatcher paving the way and creating a market for experimental and heavy music, at least made by girl groups. And without Dreamcatcher, I don't think we'd reach a place where just straight up metal music could worm its way into mainstream K-pop like this. But as such, we are at a point, and Poison is definitely not the end of such a phenomena. In fact, it might just be the beginning. Poison by Pink Fantasy came out a bit earlier in the year, so for the longest time, I thought Poison was the most creative and experimental song to be released out of K-pop in 2021, until the release of Ring X Ring by Billie changed all of that. This song was an absolute curveball thrown at us by one of the most promising rookie groups to debut in 2021. To me, it sounds like a Death Grips instrumental cosplaying as an OST for an edgy shonen anime. Its abrasive musicality is like a disorienting hurricane, a swirling mass of chaos, but you eventually arrive at the chorus and it's like stumbling into the eye of the storm, with the melodious voices of the Billie members providing shelter and clarity. It's definitely an experience unlike anything I've ever heard in mainstream K-pop, and it still baffles me how such a song could exist in the climate of K-pop that we live in today. But I guess that just says a lot about the direction that K-pop is kind of heading into at this point. So it's really interesting to see a rookie group like Billie and other girl groups taking on the mantle of experimental music in K-pop. It's kind of just amazing. Speaking of Ring Ring, this year we definitely saw attempts at the retro wave style because people are still very much affected by the Weeknd's splash back in 2019, and it's still carrying on today because K-pop is just like that. They find it difficult to let go of trends, and for better or worse, that has yielded to some really interesting attempts at that retro wave style. However, I feel like its sister genre, synth pop, hasn't been getting as much attention as I wish. It's still a very prominent genre in K-pop, especially in the past. It's always been there, but I think because of the rise in synthwave and retrowave, it's kind of been buried. So I was really surprised and excited to hear it again when Ring Ring by Rocket Punch came out. I found it such a welcome surprise. And again, this is a song I've talked about earlier in the year, so I will link that video up there so you can get my full review of the song. I like to think of a synthwave as the darker and edgier girlfriend of synth pop. They kind of use similar like sounds and tones, I guess, except synth pop is obviously a lot sweeter and more innocent, and that's how Ring Ring by Rocket Punch sounds like to me. I like how the post-chorus melody even takes direct inspiration from the chorus of Take On Me by British new wave band Aha, which is admittedly one of the catchiest songs in the English-speaking world, and I just really like how Rocket Punch turned it into their own. I think the girlies did a really good job of evoking a really bright, neon-drenched atmosphere. Speaking of bright and sweet songs, Stereotype by Stacey was a song I was literally obsessed with. I learned the choreography for this during New Zealand's longest lockdown of the year, and honestly, it was a very welcome companion to the many dreary afternoons that I spent inside. Speaking of life in lockdowns, We Go by Promise 9 is honestly one of my favorite songs of the year, period. It's a really basic summer song, so I don't really think that there's much to talk about it, but it sparked so much joy and it never fails to make me smile. I just really love that song too. And another song that sparks a lot of joy is Do or Not by Pentagon. Now, I'm very picky when it comes to boy groups, and even though I've been trying to be more open to listening to different groups, it's still kind of like I still have my favorites, and Pentagon is one of those people that I do look out for because they tend to give me the kind of boy group music that I like. Pentagon is one of the few boy groups that don't consistently do aggressive, hypermasculine concepts. They do them sometimes, but most of the time they, I guess, err on the side of, you know, really sweet pop rock songs. And Do or Not is a classic example of a really sweet pop rock song that showcases Pentagon's signature, goofy, youthful side. Another example of a boy group concept that I adored that came out from 2021 is Cinema by CIX. It is one of my favorite songs of this year, as well as one of the best K-pop songs of 2021, though it doesn't really sound like K-pop, does it? It definitely leans more towards indie pop or something. It doesn't really sound like a title track from K-pop that you would typically expect. There isn't even a rap verse in the song, and I think that's the best part of the song. It just allows its members' vocals to shine as they are. And I think that's the biggest appeal of the song, its own sincerity and its conviction to be different from its peers. Dimples by Wusong is the only song on this list that is by a soloist. Now, Wusong is actually a main vocalist for a band called The Rose. Now, I'm not a big The Rose fan, but I probably would be after getting into Wusong because I love him so much. I would do anything for this guy. I am a huge simp for this man, and he makes it so easy to simp for him when he makes such good music like this. Dimples is what I consider to be like the purest form of pop music. Music that just makes you smile no matter what. I love how he manages to twist the synths and gated reverbs into something that feels so utterly freeing and joyful. So while Dimples feels like a declaration of love while you and your lover run through empty streets at night, Don't Call Me by SHINee feels like a slap to the face. This is the sassiest song to come out of K-pop in 2021 and by far has the most personality just by virtue of being an anthem for bad bitches. I love that SHINee's first comeback in basically 3 years is so unapologetically mean. It spits out insults and curses like a fire-breathing dragon awakened from its long slumber. Ever since Jonghyun passed away all those years ago, I have found it a bit difficult to listen to SHINee due to his absence. It was very obvious to me at the time. But this song is just so good and so like well-rounded that I've been able to set aside that grief even for a few minutes just to listen to how perfect the song is. So 2021 has been the year of the angsty pop-punk revivalism era, which I do welcome with open arms, especially since it brought us Tomorrow by Together's angsty emo era. And Love Song and Loser Lover are like one of my favorite songs from this year, as you can see from this poster. Love you guys. I've always preferred TXT's cute concepts over their edgy ones, but these comebacks have definitely converted me. It's obviously also how the boys are growing into their voices and are mastering them more and more as time goes on. For example, Taehyun's vocal delivery in Love Song really got me confused the first time I listened to it. I couldn't believe that such a rough and growly sound could come from such a sweet and innocent boy. And my favorite part in Loser Lover is kind of like following the same principle when Bomgyu said, "I fucking keep it low." Well, first of all, it cracked me up, but also that was kind of hot. I love that line. On the complete opposite end of the masculinity spectrum, we have Teardrop by SF9. I actually don't follow SF9 very closely. It was kind of just like a song that I heard because my friends were really into SF9. But I do like this song. This song is so sexy, and that's kind of like all I have to say about this. This song is just a real vibe. And speaking of sexy, I also really loved Easy by Woo Sonya the Black. Now this is a subunit. I like it for all the reasons I love Teardrop. Its subtle and understated sensuality just sticks with you even after you've listened to the song. K-pop has this tendency to go for songs that are bigger, brighter, and just piling on more and more into their concepts, that I feel like something as simple and understated as these two songs can be quite refreshing at the landscape that K-pop is at this point. So that's why I really like these two songs, and that's why they really stood out to me in that way. And finally, the last song of my list is Boyfriend by Signature. Signature is a pretty small, unknown group, unfortunately. Their journey has been full of twists and turns and many bumps in the road that have led them to fly under the radar for many people. But I really like the song, and I think Boyfriend received a good amount of attention, which I feel like is really well deserved considering how good the song is. It's giving me like Psycho by Red Velvet vibes. It's got that same flavor of hazy R&B devotion and melodrama. I'm surprised to see them tackle considering their previous songs, which did not sound anything like this. And I'm kind of suspecting it has a lot to do with the fact that they've had some member lineup changes recently, and maybe this was just a concept that either they had to do because of the new members they had in their lineup, but also maybe because this is a concept that they can finally do because they have new members in their lineup. But regardless, whatever the reason had been, I'm looking forward to where their new direction takes them, and I'm hoping that whatever concept that they end up doing in the future, it would be of the same quality as the song. Thank you so much for watching this video. That's all I have for today. Comment down below whether you agreed with my picks for 2021, and if there was a song that you guys really liked that you think I should pay attention to, comment down below as well. Let's all say a farewell to 2021. It has been a real journey, but now we can look forward to what K-pop has to offer us in 2022. Please like this video if you enjoyed my ramblings, and subscribe if you want to see more of my work. All my social media links are down in the description, as well as my Patreon and Ko-fi pages if you guys want to support my work. I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye! Bad bitches.